Be advised, the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm Buddy Cunanan. Now, on this show, we talk about everything under the sun. And for the last few weeks, we've been talking about heroes, specifically our athletes, the trials and tribulations they face, and the honors that they bring to our country. Now, tonight's show, we're going to talk about heroes again, but a different type of hero. Now, these champions provide financial security for their families. They create wealth for others. They spur innovation. They also provide our economy with a significant boost or shot in the arm. Now, we see them everywhere, their work everywhere, in many things that we do and the places we go to. These people are entrepreneurs. Now, when we talk about entrepreneurs, we usually think about the big guys like Bill Gates and Sir Richard Branson, and even perhaps the most successful and most famous Filipino entrepreneur, Henry C., who is the founder of the SM group of companies. But there's so many other entrepreneurs in our society, unsung ones. Like, for instance, a good friend of mine, Vanessa Vetrano, who recently opened, a few years at least, her Italian restaurant called Galileo Enoteca. Now, all these guys, all these men and women are linked by a common bond, a common thread, a common experience, and common values. And this is basically, they had a dream, and they had the courage to follow their dreams, and they once saw an opportunity and a situation, and they told themselves, hey, I can make this better. I can do this better. And so tonight, we are going to celebrate entrepreneurs, and we're going to talk about them, and we're going to talk about how you and I can be entrepreneurs ourselves. And joining us now is a good friend of mine, co-host in GNN, and the author of Pitbulls and Entrepreneurs, Mr. Raju Manjan.
Good evening.
Hello, Raju, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show, finally.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about you, Raju, and your background. You are an Indian national, right?
Well, I was.
Okay.
And technically, I might be considered Indian, but spiritually and emotionally, I'm a Filipino now.
Marunong ka mag-Tagalog?
O konti po.
Okay. Continue. And then, so how did you end up in the Philippines, and where are you from in India?
I was born in Bombay
Okay.
and raised in a small town called Pune.
Pune.
Yeah,
okay.
I came to the Philippines in 1981, hoping to do my master's in business administration at the AIM back in '81, and I stayed on, and this is home for me now.
And what do you do professionally aside from being a host in the
Besides
coolest
yeah.
news channel on the air?
Coolest news channel. Okay. Well, I spent a few years in the corporate world. After I came here, I worked for commodities. I worked for an engineering company. And then I moved into sales and international trade.
Okay.
And for a good 15 or 17 years, from the mid to late 80s until the end of the last century, I was into international trade and manufacturing and export. And that's where I spent the major chunk of my life. And now for the last 12 years, I'm into training and development. So I help people become better.
Okay. What kind of training do you do?
Well, I do three areas. I do communication skills, that's, one-on-one skills or one-on-lot, and I do creative thinking, and I do leadership skills, so leadership and change. So these are the three areas I work in.
Interesting, especially the part about creative thinking.
Absolutely.
Yes, because in our educational system here in the Philippines,
Yeah.
sometimes there's too much emphasis on memorization maybe, and not too much emphasis on thinking outside the box.
Absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
and when we're talking about entrepreneurship,
Yes,
it
sir.
really is about thinking outside the box.
Yeah, that and so much more.
Yes.
That and so much more. Yeah.
Now, I want to highlight your book because it's such an interesting title, which I adopted.
Yeah.
Adopted for the title of this show.
Thank you for
It's
doing
called
that. Yeah.
Pitbulls and Entrepreneurs.
Pitbulls and entrepreneurs.
Yes, this is
Okay.
your first book, Raju.
No, this is my third book. I wrote a book on public speaking 6 years ago, and
Okay.
then I wrote a book on humor as a tool for leadership. When you laugh and people enjoy, so they open up. So I wrote a book on humor, and now this is my third book. And this actually came about as an accident. I didn't plan this in my life, but it's come about, and it's a beautiful little book.
It is. Now, tell us, okay, you say it came about as an accident. What kind of accident?
You want to know the genesis of this book?
Tell us.
2.5 years ago, I was invited to give a talk to a group of graduating students somewhere in downtown Manila, and there were 3 other speakers with me, 2 or 3 other speakers. One of them was a gentleman called Professor Arthur Ilano from UP. Then there was another gentleman who teaches entrepreneurship. That's his business. And his name is Boom San Agustin. I was the 3rd speaker. And I took the whole thing very lightly. There were about 200 or 300 students, and I took the whole thing lightly, thinking these are students. What do they know about entrepreneurship? So I went and really laughed with them. I shared stories about people I knew, people who had succeeded, failed, and toiled into success eventually. And I used the analogy of pit bulls, because pit bulls are tenacious. They're very strong, persistent dogs. So one of the things that I put across is that as an entrepreneur, not only do you have to be creative, you also have to persist. You have to see the thing through. So I put that point across, and it took me about 30, 40 minutes, and they were laughing, and they were having fun, and they loved it. So after the interaction, after the presentation, I never thought about this, but Boom San Agustin, who's a trainer and a coach in entrepreneurship, he kept talking about it for years and years. That every time I met him online, in his programs, everywhere he was